After completing this lesson, you'll be able to insert and remove edges from a freeform body, add faces to the freeform body, and control the display of the model for editing. Use the New Design from File tool to open the F1 Car Freeform Editing Fusion Archive file. When the file opens, you'll see that there's an open freeform body in this design. To modify it, go to the timeline and double-click on the form. This will take you into the sculpt environment, where you will be able to see the faces and edges and vertices of the model as long as you're displaying visible edges. Start the Edit Form tool and then select a point or edge on the model. This will display the manipulator, which has a combination of move, scale, and rotate controls. In the Edit Form dialog, you can limit the transform mode to move, scale, or rotation, or you can use all, which will give you all of the options at once. You can also control how the manipulator is positioned, whether it's based on the world space, which is the coordinate system of the model, the view space, which is how you're looking at the model presently, or local to the model, which will be based on the entity itself and its position on the model. You can also use selection filters to just choose vertices, select all, or simply choose bodies. Expanding the selection options, we can see that there are controls for manipulating the selection, but the main ones that I want to point out are the display modes. If you press Ctrl 1, you can go to the box mode. This is the mode that many designers will use. It will take your smooth model and represent it as a series of planes. Click on the point near the back that is visibly out of line and use the arrow manipulator to drag it along an axis, or use the square manipulator to drag it through a plane. You can also drag the top using the arrow to line up the top of the edge a little better. Then grab the outside edges and move them out just a little bit. Grabbing a vertices near the bottom, you can pull it out to smooth things. Then let's switch to the control frame display. This will give us the smooth body, but keep the edges in place for editing. Selecting an edge that's on the inside of the side pod, you can see how moving it up and down will move the edge more drastically than it does the curved surface. Now let's switch to the smooth mode. We can see here that the top of the canopy is kind of flat across the middle. It would be nice to add curvature, but without having an edge there, it's impossible to do. So, let's go to the Modify pull-down and select Insert Edge. Then select an edge adjacent to the face and use the manipulator to drop an edge somewhere near the middle of this face. Creating the edge will slightly modify the curvature. Start the Edit Form tool to get the shape that we want. We can also scale in a single direction to change the width. And now let's take a closer look at the side pods. The goal is to have the ends of them to be fairly flat. Double-clicking on an edge will select the entire loop, but because the curvature is based on the proximity of edges, we want to add another set of faces. To do this, hold the Alt key and just start to move the cursor along the axis. It will appear as though you're still editing the same edge, but in reality you've created a new set of faces and Fusion 360 has automatically selected the new edges. Drag them a short distance. Then, holding Alt again, click the center of the manipulator, which is the scale in all directions, and drag your cursor so it starts to scale the model in toward the middle. As you do this, you'll notice that the farther you are from the last set of edges, the more curvature is applied. So don't get too far away from the last set of edges if you want a sharp transition. We'll move that back out, release the mouse button, still holding the Alt key, and then drag inward one more time. This is a good result. So we'll say OK, and then go to the Modify pull down and use the Fill Hole tool. Now select an edge of the opening and it will automatically close. If the result looks strange, you can go to the dialog and switch between Fill Star or Collapse, as well as the Reduce Star option. For this model, let's stay with Fill Star. This gives a nice consistent distribution of edges, which will make it easier for additional edits down the line. There are additional tools under the Modify toolbar that are very powerful, such as Subdivide, which can automatically take a single face and break it into multiple faces, Bridge, which will allow you to connect faces from one area of a part to another, creating new faces in between your selections. Weld Vertices and Merge Edge will allow you to create your design in multiple pieces and then allow you to connect the edges or vertices of the two bodies together to make one. Any and all of these tools are very powerful, but where you get the most out of them is using them in combination. For example, I'd like to add just a little bit more detail to the front of the car. So I'll go to the Insert Edge tool and pick two of the edges along the outside faces, creating a new edge just below it. Adding this new edge will add a little bit of sharpness to the top of the transition, but I'd like to add a lot of sharpness. I'll go back to the Modify pull down and select the Crease tool, then double click on the new edges. This will break the G2 continuity of the surface. And then when I use Edit Form, you'll see that we can pull this sharp edge out while keeping the rest of the body connected. Add a little more detail, and now we've created something very interesting with just a couple of mouse clicks. When we click Finish Form, we'll go right back to the model environment and see all of the changes that were implemented in our design.